Most people don't misuse their 401k because they're careless. They misuse it because they're overwhelmed. They open the account once, make a few choices they don't fully understand, and then quietly hope everything works out over the next 30 or 40 years. And the system lets them. That's the uncomfortable part. Your 401k doesn't warn you when you're underusing it. It doesn't tell you when you're making a small mistake that will cost you years later. It doesn't tap you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, this choice matters more than you think." It just keeps going. Welcome to Money Science AR. Today we're talking about how to use your 401k wisely, without being a financial expert, without obsessing over markets, and without turning retirement into a second full-time job. Because here's the truth most people never hear. You don't need to be brilliant to use a 401k well. You need to avoid a few quiet traps and design the system to work even when you're not paying attention. Let's start with what a 401k actually is. Not the technical definition, but the real one. A 401k is not an investment account you manage. It's a long-term behavior system. It's designed to move money out of your paycheck before you can spend it, invest it steadily over decades, and reward patience more than intelligence. When people struggle with their 401k, it's rarely because they picked the wrong fund. It's because their behavior and the system aren't aligned. Most people interact with their 401k at the worst possible moment, day one of a new job. You're overwhelmed. You're thinking about health insurance. You're thinking about your first paycheck. You're not thinking about age 65. So you rush. You choose a contribution that feels safe today. You pick an investment option that sounds familiar. You click submit. And then you don't look at it again for years. That's not irresponsible. That's human. The problem is that early decisions echo for decades. Using your 401k wisely doesn't mean constantly changing it. It means setting it up so it doesn't need constant fixing. The first thing wise 401k users understand is this. The most important decision isn't what you invest in, it's how consistently money enters the system. People obsess over funds while ignoring contributions. But contributions are the engine. A simple rule quietly separates people who do well from those who don't. They increase contributions slowly over time. Not dramatically, not painfully, gradually. A small increase when income rises. A small adjustment after raises. A slow climb that doesn't disrupt daily life. This matters more than picking the perfect investment. Because time rewards consistency far more than cleverness. Another thing wise users understand is employer match, not as free money, but as behavioral leverage. The match is not a bonus. It's an incentive to get you to participate properly. When you don't contribute enough to receive the full match, you're not failing financially, but you are underusing the system. The system is offering reinforcement, not generosity. Using your 401k wisely means aligning your behavior to capture what's already built in. Not by stretching yourself thin, but by understanding the structure. Now, let's talk about investments, because this is where people freeze. Most people think investing requires expertise. It doesn't. What it requires is accepting uncertainty. The market moves, balances fluctuate. Some years look great, some don't. Wise 401k users don't react to this emotionally. They zoom out. They understand that short-term movement is noise in a decades-long system. This is why simplicity matters. Most people don't need complex portfolios. They don't need constant adjustments. They don't need to chase performance. They need broad exposure and time. Simplicity reduces the urge to interfere. Interference is expensive. Every time someone changes strategy in reaction to fear or excitement, they usually lock in the worst timing possible. Wise users design their 401k so they're less tempted to touch it. That's not laziness, that's intelligence. Another key difference is how people treat volatility. Stressed users see volatility as danger. Calm users see it as normal. They don't interpret drops as personal failures or signs they did something wrong. They understand that retirement accounts are not meant to feel stable year to year. They're meant to be durable over decades. This mindset alone prevents many costly mistakes. Now, let's talk about something most people misunderstand: contribution limits. Wise users don't chase the maximum right away. They don't treat the limit as a requirement. They treat it as a ceiling, not a goal. The goal is sustainability. A contribution that causes stress will eventually be reduced or stopped. A contribution that fits real life continues quietly for years. Long-term progress beats short-term heroics. Another thing Calm 401k users do differently is how often they check their accounts. They don't check daily. They don't check emotionally. They don't react to headlines. They check occasionally, with curiosity, not judgment. This prevents panic and overcorrection. Your 401k does not need supervision, it needs patience. Let's talk about job changes, because this is where many people accidentally damage their progress. When people change jobs, their 401k enters a gray area. Money doesn't disappear, but attention often does. Accounts get left behind. Fees change. Allocations drift. Wise users don't rush decisions during transitions. They understand that doing nothing briefly is better than doing the wrong thing quickly. They protect long-term money from short-term stress. They don't treat their 401k as emergency cash unless there's no other option. Because the most expensive financial decisions are usually made during disruption, calm systems slow decisions down. Another subtle behavior shows up in how people think about catching up. People who feel behind often try to overcorrect. They increase contributions aggressively. They chase higher risk. They pressure themselves. Wise users resist this urge. They understand that panic doesn't accelerate progress. It destabilizes it. Slow consistency is powerful. Now, let's address a quiet myth. Many people believe that using a 401k wisely means constantly optimizing. It doesn't. Optimization assumes perfect information and perfect behavior. Real life doesn't offer either. Wise use is about robustness, not optimization. A system that performs reasonably well under many conditions is better than one that performs perfectly under ideal conditions. That's why calm users value simplicity, automation, and forgiveness. They expect mistakes, they expect life changes, they expect distraction, and they design accordingly. Another important behavior is how people emotionally frame their 401k. Stressed users see it as pressure, a reminder of what they should be doing. Calm users see it as protection, not something to win, something to support future choices. That framing reduces avoidance. Avoidance is one of the biggest silent costs in retirement planning. If something feels heavy, people stop engaging entirely. Wise systems don't rely on emotional strength. They rely on structure. Let's talk about withdrawals, not in detail, but in mindset. Wise users understand that retirement accounts are not flexible savings. They are protected space. Using them early isn't just a financial decision, it's a timeline decision. When money leaves early, it doesn't just lose value, it loses time. Wise users design their lives so they don't need to touch long-term money during short-term stress. That separation is one of the most powerful forms of financial calm. Now zoom out. Using your 401k wisely isn't about mastering finance. It's about respecting time, behavior, and human limits. It's about setting up a system that works even when you're busy, tired, or distracted. That's why people who aren't good with money sometimes end up doing better than those who overthink everything. They interfere less. They let the system do its job. Here's the quiet truth. Your 401k doesn't need brilliance. It needs consistency, patience, and protection from panic. If you've ever felt confused by your 401k, that doesn't mean you're behind. It means the system was never explained in human terms, and that's fixable. You don't need to become a financial expert. You need a calm strategy that survives real life. That's what wise use actually looks like. I'll see you in the next video on Money Science AR.